Okay, we are letting people in. We're going to give it just a few minutes to see if we can fill up. We have over 60 people, 60 delegations joining us tonight. So let's just give it a few more minutes. Right now we have 41. Let's give it a little bit more time for people to log in, finish up their dinner. Give it just one more minute here. We have 33 participants and 8 panelists. While we wait, thanks everybody for joining. You're logging in to learn about our 2021 Polar Plunge season. Very excited to launch our season. Tonight we're going to talk about some great things you as a delegation can do to be successful in your revenue share efforts. So go ahead and grab your beverage and we'll be getting started shortly. We'll give it just one more minute. We'll start at 6:04. Just joining us, we're going to get started shortly. You're logged on to the Polar Plunge webinar for revenue share, where our delegations are gathering to learn about our 2021 plunge season. Okay, let's get things kicked off. Let's start with, hi, I'm Mike Kane, Special Olympics Minnesota, Vice President of Program. Thanks for joining us tonight and our Polar Plunge webinar. Just to start off, a few housekeeping notes. This meeting will be recorded and we will follow up with everyone that's registered and send you a link. It's going to be so exciting. You're going to want to rewatch it, but if you're like me, you might miss a few things or forget to jot notes down. Don't worry, we'll send you the recording after the event. All details and slides will also be shared in that meeting. And if we have any questions that we aren't able to answer tonight, we will also follow up with those questions. But if you do have a question, which we're going to have you use the chat function to ask that question. We have a panel put together of LATR and program staff and development staff that are here to answer your questions. We'll either do it live or we have a section at the end of the meeting where we will answer those questions. Everybody knows where their own bathroom is at. Everyone knows where their snack bar is at, where their beverages are at. Typical housekeeping stuff I don't have to do in this new world of Zoom. Next up, we have a great video we'd like to share with you to get us all in the spirit of Polar Plunge 2021. Enjoy. That's awesome. Doesn't that get everyone in the spirit of plunge? I tell you, I've never been so excited to take the plunge this year and to get out there and to raise money for Special Olympics Minnesota and our athletes. This is one of those efforts that we can't talk enough about the success of our LETR partnership and how through this partnership, both Delegations and Special Olympics Minnesota is able to raise millions year after year. Matter of fact, last year we raised well over $4 million, set some records in regards to our Polar Bear Plunge efforts. And a big piece of that is our revenue share model, and that you all online are a critical part of that collaborative effort. It's a real win-win situation where our delegations get to keep half of the money they raise online. And that year after year, more delegations are signing up and joining the momentum, the effort. It seems like it's just a Minnesota culture to get in those freezing waters. And what a great side benefit is we're really benefiting our delegations. Delegations, thank you first and foremost for your efforts last year, and again, moving forward this year. Things are going to look a little different. You're going to hear about how they're going to look different, but first and foremost, we are having a plunge season this year. So we're excited to, again, go out there and move that needle and to do that collaborative fundraising effort. Just last year, you raised over $500,000 for your for your local teams. So excited to have you here tonight, and we have a series of expert panelists that are going to walk you through the plunge details. And again, use that chat function. If you have questions, we'll promise to get back to you and answer those tonight. And if not tonight, we'll send you an email. So next up is Molly, one of our plunge experts. Molly, it's all yours.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for having us. So I want to talk a little bit more about the registration process, how you can get signed up for the event. But before that, if you haven't done the plunge before, all the funds that we raise stay to help our program. You do have to raise $75 to plunge, but it doesn't have to be paid at registration. It just has to be fundraised by the time you get to the plunge or you do your the end of the season for virtual this year. I'll touch a little bit more when I go through the registration process about the incentives for this year, and a few of us will talk more about how this year there's 2 ways to plunge. So in person, like we all know it before, and then virtually, kind of a DIY plunge. So now I'm going to share my screen so everyone, we can walk through the registration process. All right. So once you go, so our website for the plunge, it's plungemn.org. And then once you get there, you can go to register. And there's a few different ways, but however you get there, it'll kind of take you to the same page. So if you can do register for in-person plunge, register for virtual, or if you just hit register from this main page, it brings you to a registration site. So I will actually log out quick. So if you have a plunge page from last year, you can either create a new account if you've never plunged before, or you can log in to an existing account. So if you do a new account, you just have to pick your username, email, password, and then the next step, you just enter in your personal information. So I'll just log into an existing account. Then once you get to the event registration part of it, you can choose the event. So this is where it's a little different if you've plunged in the past. This is where it changes from what we've done. So if your team wants to be all virtual this year, you would just choose virtual here. At the top one, hit virtual plunge, choose your goal. And then can continue going through the process. Then another option that we have is if some teams want to do in person and then also have people on your team do virtual as well, you would choose wherever you want to go. So say you wanted to do the Woodbury Plunge, then you click on that and it gives the option for the in-person or virtual. So then whatever you want to do, you can click, and then you can do Woodbury or virtual, choose whichever one you want. But then this way, if you want a team that is mixed, this is the best way to register, because then everyone can be on one team in one spot and you don't have to create 2 different teams. So then if you want to do virtual, choose your goal and can choose whatever you want. The next slide, after I get done going through this, I'll go through what the different incentives are. But so you choose your goal, click next step, and then you can either be an individual, join existing team, or create a new team. So if you create your team here, I'll show you under this. Oops. So if you choose a team that's already signed up, so do Jerry's Food Woodbury or whatever your team was that you already created, this is how people can join, whether they're virtual or going to the location under there. So I'm just going to create a new team. And then, so you'll want to create a new group, or if you've done the plunge before, your group should be in there from years past. So you can choose that from the drop down. Otherwise, just choose the group here. And Emily will touch on this a little bit next in the revenue share portion, but when you're creating your team, you should use your code with your team, the 3 letters for your team, and then your team name should be the name of your team, and then also the group. So she'll touch on that more on the next one when we talk about revenue share. And then for the group category, you can choose Special Olympics delegation. And then you just have to accept the waiver. And then you're all registered. And so that's how you would do it. Again, just to reiterate, if you want to do the team where you have people attending in person and virtually, you'll want to go choose the location first, and then people can choose virtual or in person under there. If you create a team, you can also do, if you want to be only virtual, then that's where you would choose that virtual event when you're choosing from that first step. So then, Sarah, if you can bring the PowerPoint back up. And then go to the next one. So as I was saying, going through there, when you choose your goal, it is tied to an incentive. So for the incentives for this year, $75, anyone who raises that to plunge gets their long sleeve t-shirt. Something a little bit different that we're doing this year, there will be a couple different prizes. So as you see from this shirt, it's kind of a Minnesota Winter Wonderland theme, but we have a couple right now. We're working with Dairy Queen and Caribou, so we'll have a few shirts, like kind of, if you remember Tootsie Pops growing up, that had the star on it, and you could sometimes turn that in for a free Tootsie Pop. If you have the Dairy Queen symbol or the Caribou symbol, you'll win a prize from them. So those will be a limited thing this year, and that will be for virtual and in person. You can win no matter which way you plunge. And then at $150, we have a tumbler with 3 different stickers. $300, it's the winter hat. $500 is the lace-up hoodie. $1,000, it's a sports wrap. So it's a jacket that can also be a blanket. And then at $2,000 is a backpack. It's kind of more like a piece of luggage, the way it opens. And if you raise $3,000, you get all of those items. So and just to touch on too, there are some fundraising tools online. So if you go to plungemn.org/tools, there's just different fundraising tips. And there's also a guide just strictly for delegations with some tips and tricks in there. So be sure to look for those. Tell your story. We see that if people actually, once you register, you can update your page with a picture and just more of a story on why you're doing it and why you're plunging. So we encourage you and all your teams, once you do sign up, that is a way to make the most of your fundraising and get more people to donate. And then DIY flash fundraisers, we've seen some teams do this and have success. So maybe once your team's all signed up, you could do something small where whoever gets a donation in a week or gets to their $75 minimum in a certain week, that they get a small prize. So just have fun with it and make the most of it, because as you see, it really does help the organization and helps your teams with that revenue share piece, which from there, I'll let Emily talk a little bit more about the revenue share and how to make sure that you get your form in to get the money.
Hello, let's see if I am on here. I don't think I see myself. Oh, there I am. Hello, everybody. Happy almost plunge season. What a cold day to be talking about the plunge. I think it's fitting. We will go with it. Just really quick, I was going through all the participants on here, and it's so fun to just see your guys' names again. So this just gives me all the excitement and fills my cup to be talking to you guys tonight about this. But let's get to the goods. So how can you get 50% of the funds you raise by doing the plunge? Guys, same song and dance, revenue share. You have to complete the revenue share application. After this next slide here, I will go through that online. It's all online. I believe that's the same as last year. So nothing new, but let's do a little refresh for those who forgot. If you're like me, I always like a little refresh. And if you're new here, welcome to the greatest event of your life, the Polar Plunge. Getting 50%. Again, just completing this revenue share application. So step one, HOD or plunge captain completes the revenue share application, you guys. This is very important. Not everybody on the team needs to complete this. This is just one application per delegation and per team that the HOD or plunge captain can complete, understanding that sometimes those are different, which is totally cool. Step two, register for the plunge using your delegation code. It's been a while. If you do not remember your code, no problem. Just email your program manager. We are happy to email you back and let you know what your code is to help you with this. And then step three, fun part, recruit your peeps. Get all your awesome team members back together and get ready for the plunge. So Sarah, you can go to the next slide, please. Tips and tricks, you guys. So completing the application before you create your plunge team online is a nice little tip, because your program manager looks at your plunge application and goes through it to make sure everything looks smooth and good to go, and can maybe catch any mistakes that you make beforehand. Not that you ever make mistakes, but it does happen sometimes. We're there to catch it. Online donations only per usual, you guys, are counted towards the revenue share. This means no in-person donations will go towards your 50%. So anything day of, just put it all online. That'd be great. You get 50% of that back. Choose one plunge location and date. Again, this is all per usual. If for whatever reason you need more than one or something happens, always reach out to your program manager. That's why we are here. We are here to help you. If you are plunging at the Duluth or Minneapolis Plunge, the 5K races also go towards your revenue share. Again, nothing new, just a little refresher, you guys. I'm going to quick share my screen, which I want to do. I have to confirm that a few times here. Beautiful. So everybody should see the Polar Plunge website. If you don't, somebody on the panelists, let me know. So what you guys see here is the Polar Plunge website that Molly just showed. How to get to the revenue share, super simple. Resources, revenue share. Once you click on the revenue share, you will be brought to this fabulous page that you see here. Delegation revenue share, right here in the black box. You click on that. That will bring you to your application, you guys. So what you fill out, everything with the beautiful little red stars next to it. Delegation, put your delegation name, your full fabulous delegation name. Plunge location, even if you are plunging virtually, you do have to choose a location on here. So just choose the location you typically plunge at. If you are all virtual, just let your program manager know and we can work with you to make sure that we have that noted. Your plunge team name, you guys, as we all know this is a really big step. You want to make sure this is correct. Molly was talking about that team code before. This is where this comes in. Please put your team code before your Awesome Plunge name. So for this example, I use Woodbury 13.WDF is Woodbury's team code. And then you can name your team name anything after that. We need that team code to make sure that we pull the report correctly. And it really, really helps when we have a lot of awesome plunge teams. So please use your team code. Again, if you do not know your team code, hit up your program manager. We got you. Fundraising goal, wow, 50,000. Way to go, Woodbury. You guys are gonna go big this year. Next, describing your anticipated participation in Polar Plunge, how you plan to recruit, how you plan to fundraise. Just put your little notes in there. Your program manager will take a look at it. If anything is weird or we need to follow up, this is how we do so. What you'll be using the revenue share for. It's super fun to always see this stuff. Really helpful for program managers if you're planning to add something new, get new uniforms. We're happy to help with all of that. So that's kind of a fun way to keep in touch with you guys on that. And then lastly, your contact information, making sure we have your contact info in case we need to follow up on anything. So that is the revenue share application. Again, big takeaways, HOD or plunge captain completes this. If you are virtual or in person, this needs to be completed. So please make sure if you're doing the plunge at all, get this done, you guys. And then if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to your program manager. And I will stop my screen and I'm done. Nice talking to you guys. I'm throwing it over to Tyler, I believe, by the way.
All right, you can head over to the next slides there. Thank you. All right, hi everybody, I'm Tyler. I'm also with the Plunge team. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about the Virtual Plunge. So of course this is new this year, but not new in anyone's lives. We've been doing things virtually for the last, that seems like 5 years, but I think it's probably 7 months. So along with everything else going on, you know, we really wanted to give you an option to plunge safely, to plunge from home, and just give you a really good option to still have fun with it, still raise money for Special Olympics, for your own delegations, for your own teams. So sign up is open right now for it. You can sign up either just as a virtual plunger. You don't have to be at a certain location. You can just do the virtual plunge, or you can sign up as a part of that location too. Another great thing that I love about Virtual Plunge, I saw one question come through on the Q&A about this, is if you don't want to plunge, but you still want to fundraise, you still want to get those great incentives, Virtual Plunge is a really good option for that. So you can sign up. We won't be counting on you being at the location itself, and you can do whatever you want. A few fun examples actually coming up from plunging at home. It really doesn't matter how you do it. Don't jump into a frozen lake still. Don't try to cut your own hole, but you can take an ice bath. You can go sledding. You can do anything cold outside or anything that you can come up with. Speaking of incentives, the incentives for the Virtual Plunge are the same as the regular plunge. So you're still going to be able to get all of those incentives. And this year they will be mailed to you. So you don't have to come to the site and pick them up. Some of your team can do in person, some of your team can do virtual, and you are able to change your preferences on your own page as well for where you want to plunge and how you want to plunge. So keep an eye out for that. And then finally, gosh, that does hit all of my points. So let's go to the next slide and pull up the video of the example plunges. Sarah's is probably my favorite on here, so be ready for that. And we're kicking it over to Keen on this one.
Good evening. Hello, everybody. As Tyler mentioned, yes, I'm going to speak a little bit about some of the safety changes we're having this year. But before that, I wanted a quick touch on following up with the virtual. A couple of the fun things that we've heard about already this year are things as easy as eating a bowl of ice cream fast in your own kitchen, and that could be your experience for your cold weather evening, or it might be as simple as simply going to your local Caribou and ordering an iced coffee. So whatever your cold weather experience might be, it could be as simple and easy as that. So we'd love to see that participation this year. But for those of you who are interested in coming in person and coming to the events, I wanted to touch on a couple of the safety items that we're obviously going to implement this year. The first one, if you guys saw the email that came out in the last day or two, we've actually changed the dates and moved the entire plunge season back a couple of months, or about 6-7 weeks behind, or 6-7 weeks later in the season. We'll be starting, our first week will be March 6th, and we will continue on from there, and we will finish up skipping the Easter weekend, and we'll finish up about, I think it's the first weekend of May or something right around there. So we're all finished before fishing opener, so we'll be good to go. And for those people who are still kind of saying, you know, well, that water's just not going to be quite as cold. Remember, April, early May, that water's still pretty darn cold. So I'm sure we're still going to get a shock out of people when they jump in the water or run in the water. So anyway, moving on, a couple of things we're going to be doing this year. If you're used to the plunge in the past, it's all about bringing a lot of people together in a quick amount of time and having a lot of fun. We still want to have that fun, but we're just not going to be able to bring that many people together at the same time. So a couple of things to keep in mind this year, beyond the change of the dates, is that we will follow the current guidelines, whatever that might be, whatever those might be at the time of the plunge season, or at the time of that plunge weekend. We'll go ahead and follow those. The guidelines change simply weekly right now, or monthly, whatever it might be. And we will definitely adhere to those from the Minnesota Department of Health, from the CDC, from what our governors stating and want us to do, whether that's event, number of people on site at any time, or the current guidance at the time. So we will keep a close eye on that, and we will follow those to a T, and rest assured we will keep it as safe as possible, because that is our number one focus, safe for the participants, volunteers, and our staff. So we will do our best to take care of that. Along with that, this year, a couple of new things we're going to do for some locations. We're going to be mandating that everybody has to follow submit a time ahead of time for their time slot to plunge. So, and in the past, some locations have done just an online where not online, but just a paper where you fill out a registration. This year, it will be online. So we'll probably give the heads up for that for all of the people that are plunging in person a week or two in advance, where you'll be able to go online, select a time that you want to plunge, and then that'll be your time. We can control the amount of people on location at any time using that kind of technology. So that's kind of the reason we're mandating that this year. Even for some of the smaller plunge, we'll still have to have you come in online. We're only going to do day of registration, no pre-registration check-ins or anything like that, like we've done at some of the restaurants and some of our hosts the night before. It'll be just day in. So the idea would be you'd pull up, we're going to ask people to come about 15 minutes before their designated plunge time. We're also going to ask that you dress in your plunge attire as much as possible. So you would come in, we'll have you park on site for the most part, when applicable. We will have you check in, do your all of the pre-reg stuff there, cycle through the tent, go into your changing tent. I'll give you a little idea on how we're going to set up those registration changing tents. A little different than we've done in the past, obviously, but you'll go to the changing tent, you'll plunge, come back, and then you'll exit. So it'll be a pretty quick process this year versus what we've been able to do in the last year, encouraging people to stick around and watch everybody else. This year, with no spectators, most likely going to happen, we'll ask you just to come in, do your plunge, and then leave. We'll still have some fun and do it that way, but we'll continue on. Again, some of the other things we're going to implement are the most likely no group photography. We're going to try to do individuals, keep people from congregating at one time in large groups. So one of the things we'll do here this year. The shuttles will probably not be in use this year. Again, we're going to have most of the parking should be on site. Again, the fact that we can cycle people through on a regularly quick way, we'll be able to get people in and out and then keep the parking lot open for the new people that stop in. So that's one way we're going to do them. In the tents, we're looking at simple things like one-way traffic. We've changed the dynamic of the changing tents to exit and enter on one end versus that central thing that we've had in the past. So we'll continue to work on that. And also we're using, with our partners from United Health Group, a new app this year that you'll be able to download pre you come to the plunge. It's an app that kind of screens you. It's a self-screening thing that you can bring at home. Kind of gives you the protocol of what's happening, how are you feeling, check off the things that to make sure that you feel safe and you're ready to come to the plunge. There's more to it, but in a nutshell, it's basically you'll download, answer a few questions. You show us the app of the door, and it'll have something as simple as maybe a green light or red light, whether you're able to participate or not based on your current health status. So a lot of little things like that are going to add up to, we believe, a very safe event, and we're anxious to get that going. We'll continue to monitor and see how things flesh out here in the next couple months, but we've got some time. There's some green light, or there's some light at the end of the tunnel, so we're hopeful for that. And we're going to do our best to provide that opportunity for everybody. At this point, I think I'll have Sarah flip to the next set of screens. I'll just kind of give it a quick overall on how we're going to run through the registration and the changing tents, and then I will finish up after that. If you guys are used to the large registration tents in the past, we're going to kind of modify that and bring it down. We're going to have a very simple one-way structure, as you can see on the screen there. You'll be able to check in and get your incentives right at the same spot, and then you'll continue right on to the changing tents. If we take a look at the changing tent diagram, as you might have guessed or been participated in the past, you've seen that it's typically elbow to elbow and other things tight to tight in there. That's basically because we have, as best we do is to control the amount of people in those tents, they can get overwhelmed at times. This year, because of the time slots that we'll be utilizing, we're only going to allow between 15 to 20 people per side, men and women's side, at every 15-minute increments. So as you can see that we have set up there, the two X's represent basically your changing station. That's just a 6-foot square area, kind of keeping in mind that 6-foot social distancing space. It's not exact, it's not going to be perfect. There's not going to be partitions in there. It's just simply 2 chairs set aside that are 6 feet apart to keep people in mind that that's kind of your distance that you should keep safely. You'll be able to have a spot to sit down and have a spot for your stuff next to you. At that point, once you're in the changing tents, that's the point where you'll be able to remove your mask, go out to the plunge hole, plunge, come back in the tent. And we'd like the first thing you do when you come back in is to put your mask back on. We're assuming those mandates are going to be still running at that time. So you'll be able to come in, change, plunge, change back into your clothes, leave, and then get ready for the next group of people that are in there. So with that, we know we can handle about 100 people per hour based on that kind of thing. So we're really kind of looking forward to moving the season along. We're excited, we're happy, we think we can do it safe. We know we can do it safe. We're anxious to see what the new protocols will be this coming in the next couple of months. But other than that, we're excited for the season. We're happy to be hopefully looking forward to getting everybody back together again, and hope to see you all soon at the plunge site. If not, virtual is going to be a great option. Looking forward to seeing your participation there as well. I think that's all I have at this point. If you have some questions, feel free to throw it in the chat. There's a lot to come on. You can always find my specific email on our website under the development team. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have outside of what this is or go into more detail if you'd like that. With that, I think I will send it over to Bill Fish at this time and let him wrap up before we finish up with some Q&As. So Bill, on to you.
Sounds great, Keen. Thank you very much. And wow, what great participation in terms of the people on the call. So thank you all very, very much. As you all know, Polar Plunge is quite special and a huge deal for Special Olympics Minnesota. And we are the talk of the country typically around plunge season when it comes to Special Olympics discussions. So, and we couldn't do any of this without all of you being a huge part of everything that we do. Just a couple of things that I want to reiterate. You know, first and foremost, as Keen said, we are absolutely going to make sure that we have super safe and events that we can put on where there are no issues whatsoever, so that everybody feels that they're in a good place. Again, reiterating, we will follow the governor's instructions, CDC, as well as the Minnesota Department of Health, and we'll be able to adhere to what they let us know that protocol can be, and we'll follow suit for sure. As I mentioned before, we know this is a big deal for you guys. It's a big deal for the entire organization, as you guys know. I mean, this is our largest fundraiser of the year, and it's where we raise significant dollars so that we're able to do a lot of the programming for, at the end of the day, you and our athletes. So we want to make sure that we have as successful a plunge season as we possibly can, given the circumstances, but also making sure that we're safe. And then also, making sure that we have as big a revenue share that we can for you guys, so that you guys are able to, at the local level, administer all of the programming that you want to for your athletes when we are able to, and when we're able to come out of the pandemic and do the programming that I think all of you want to do for our athletes. So we're reliant on you guys to make it a positive plunge season, and pick your the way that you want to do it. If we're able to do traditional, we'd love to have you out there. We'd love to see all of you, but again, we want to be safe, and that's why we have that virtual option. A couple other things I just want to add, just making sure if you guys do have questions after this discussion in terms of how to better fundraise, or how to be creative with your virtual plunging, if that's what you choose, or how you can generate more revenue or get more participation, we are absolutely there for you. That's what we want to make sure that we do is make sure that you guys have as successful a season as we possibly can. So again, thank you for your involvement. Thanks for all you do. Outside of helping to raise funds for the organization, but more importantly, the programming that you guys oversee and that you do for our athletes. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Kelly and Emily for some Q&A, and hopefully we can answer all the questions that you guys have. And if some come later, we're happy to answer those at another time as well. So thank you all for being a part of this. We appreciate it.
So I'm going to jump in and see if we can maybe have Molly come back. And there's a question about whether a team captain can be a team captain for both in-person and virtual for the team without being registered for both. So Molly, can you help us with that?
Yeah, so I think in that way, the best, if you're going to be going to eat, if you're going to have anybody on your team be at a location, and the best way is just to register under that location. And even if you click virtual, like under Woodbury or whatever one it is, when you click your event, if you pick a location, then people will be able to register at that location or virtually. And then that way you're only registered for the way that you want to plunge. Hopefully that makes sense. If you still have questions, let me know. But I think the easiest way to go about it is if anyone is planning to be going to a location, it's best to, when you click the event on that step 3, to choose the location and then just go from there, instead of clicking virtual as your main event, which is that top option under events. So that one I would just use if your whole team is planning to be virtual. And obviously you can always change later. If some people do decide to go to a location, we can help get that changed, but just based on however you plan to start it.
Awesome, thanks Molly. And then maybe Keen, there's a couple of questions I think kind of along the same line in terms of if an athlete comes with an assistant and that assistant is not the same sex, is there a changing area that they'll be able to utilize?
I'd rather have that person get a hold of us. It depends on the specific locations. We'll certainly make accommodations for that. but it's something that we're not going to have at every single location if it's not needed. So we'll definitely figure that out. If they can just give me a contact or give me a holler previous to that, we'll work through that and we'll make it work for everybody. So absolutely, it's just something that's just not typically offered at every location.
Perfect. Do you know, Keen or Molly, yet how the time slots will work for teams that usually have a lot of plungers? Would they get scheduled back to back, or would that work differently?
What we'll do is, that's one that we have to wait to see what the governor says is how many people we can have on site at times. If there's for some reason life is good and we end up with a couple hundred people per time, that's something that we'll be able to fix, no problem. If for some reason there's some restrictions that we aren't able to have more than 15, 20 people on site at any particular time, we'll have to do those back to back. And how we're going to do that online is there'll be, at this point, we're assessing that it'll be like about 15-minute increments. And so what you would want to do is just get a hold of us. We'll want to block, 2 or 3, whatever your number is, if it's 15 to 20, if it's 15 males, 15 females, whatever your ratio is, we'll try to do our best to get those back to back so you can all plunge at one time. It's just, again, that we're talking about things like congregating where everybody hangs around and waits for everybody like we have in the past. That's something that we're not going to be able to do. We'll have to kind of get that first group of 15 or potentially 30 in. They'll have to leave and then the next group will come in. So that's kind of how we're kind of viewing it this year. A lot is up in the air depending on the numbers that we'll be able to do at the time of the plunge, which is still potentially 2 or maybe 3 months away. So hopefully restrictions will be lifted a little bit and we're able to allow larger numbers, but we will see when we get there. And again, be flexible as you can with this year, and we'll try to accommodate every team as much as possible, because that is a big part of it, is having fun with everybody. Something we might have to just kind of walk around a little bit this year only if possible. So hopefully that answers your question. Again, find me on the development page on the website and I can certainly answer any of your questions or give you a call afterward as well.
Excellent. There's a couple questions about the transportation at Woodbury. Just wanted to clarify, there won't be any shuttles this year. All parking is on site, but the question is specific to the Woodbury site about the hill down to the lake. I'm not super familiar with that location, but Keen, if you might be able to speak to that, or Molly.
I can touch on that one. That's my plunge. So I know in the past we've had some people we've helped get down because there is that hill. So like you said, we won't have shuttles, but we do usually always have like a 4x4 or 4-wheeler thing that we've used in the past. So if I know we've had that. So if you do have anyone that needs help getting down the hill, and that's something where reach out to me or the plunge inbox, and I can help coordinate that for the day of the plunge. And that is something we'll still offer this year.
Emily, do you have any additional questions from your Q&A side that
No,
haven't
the
been
only
answered?
thing that I had, somebody asked about volunteer opportunities at the plunge this year. We are still having volunteers, is what we were told. And Tyler, if you want to touch on that actually a little bit, that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So like Emily said, we will still be having volunteers for this year. We are still working on setting up the spots right now that everything is officially postponed. We didn't want to put anything out there and have to change it now that this has happened. One of the things that we are also figuring out is how to do volunteers safely, right? So we have our whole plan on participants. Keen walked you through the tent layout, everything like that. Well, on all of those layouts, there are volunteer spots as well. So we have a pretty good idea of that, but we're just checking with our local officials, with our plunge committees, to make sure that the plan makes sense to all of them as well. And then we'll get those opened up, I would imagine, in the next couple of weeks before the new year.
Excellent. I think that is the end of the Q&A that I'm aware of. We'll wait maybe 30 more seconds if you'd like to type a last minute question into the Q&A. Otherwise, there were a couple of people we said we'd follow up with afterwards, or feedback we would pass along to our Plunge team and to our webmaster. So we will certainly do that. Other than that, we do appreciate you attending and promoting Plunge and Special Olympics, and we just appreciate everything that you do. Just a reminder that this is recorded and will be sent out to not only the attendees but also HODs that were not able to attend today. We will send this the link for this recording as well as the PowerPoint out to attendees and all HODs. So if there's anything you missed, hopefully you can find it there. Otherwise, please feel free to reach out to our Plunge team or to a program manager, and we will get you whatever answers you need. Thanks for attending tonight. Have a great rest of your evening.